Hi, ladies.
Hey,
So
girl.
I
Roman,
am very
yeah,
excited to talk about our book that we read together. It's called
yes.
Let Them by Mel Robbins. And
Yes.
it's such an awesome book. I mean, I've been a big fan of Mel Robbins since the 5 minute, is it a 5 second rule? I'm gonna get the title wrong, but if
She
you
has that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing,
yes, as soon as
and
you
then
get
Five,
out
she
four,
of
has
three.
the
bed, right.
high five thing.
In the mirror, yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And she's just an awesome woman, and I love the story. And I guess we'll just jump in
Mm-hmm.
and let's talk about the book. Let them. So, what was your
Definitely.
overall opinion, Mary?
Oh my gosh, I think this is something that you sometimes do, but not all the time. And so for her to really bring this concept forward in so many different situations, like if you're standing in line, or if somebody's in the airplane and they're sneezing and they're not covering your face, or someone's doing something like in your neighborhood that's against the HOA or whatever, and you want to be the police.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That, I thought that her stories about how this comes up for us,
Mm-hmm.
and how really it's like it gives you the opportunity to take a step back and go, do I really need to control this situation?
Right.
Or what is it that I need to do for me that
Mm-hmm.
helps me deal with what I'm observing,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
or the discomfort or the stress I'm feeling standing
Right.
in line, or observing this behavior, or the conflicts at office. That's really what
Mm-hmm.
gives you that moment to go, wait a minute, what can I really do for myself
Mm-hmm.
versus the person does this really need to be, do I need to really holler at the person in line that's going slow, or do I really need to be the police of the neighborhood that doing, X, Y, and Z? So
Right.
I thought this is such a timely book
Mm-hmm.
and such an amazing concept, because it's not something we all do all the time. We do it sometimes, maybe, but not
Right.
all the time. I think most of us do it. Don't do that. We both do try to control the situation. We try to control our partner, our family, our jobs. It comes up.
Yeah.
You know, and she
That.
gives, but I think, you know, to me, what's hard is how to remember this, because you get emotional.
I think it depends on the situation,
Right.
but I didn't realize how empowering it is for yourself to just let things go. Like how you gain your power back. Because it's a struggle trying to control each situation. She
Yes.
talked about the situation with her friends when she looked on social media and she saw they went out, they were hanging
Yes.
out, they didn't invite her.
Yes.
I
And
know.
that was so hurtful. But
Yes.
as you go through the story, she talked about how one, she wasn't inviting
Of
them
course.
places and she was always Miss Busy. So maybe that's why they didn't invite her. But
Mm-hmm.
she had to release it and let it go because they have a right to go out without her, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was so relatable because a lot of us probably have been through that where you
Oh
see friends
yeah.
hanging out and you're like, wait a second, why didn't she call me? Or why didn't she
Right.
do this? Or why didn't she do that? And again, you're focusing on yourself and you're thinking that they are supposed to work a world around you. But to Keisha's point, and you read through the book and you find out, well, she wasn't really a good friend. How many times did she reach out to them? And
Right.
Well, I think
it's
also
okay.
too, for me, I think if I've done something wrong.
That's what she said. She
Yeah,
felt
I
like,
feel like
did
if
she
I,
do something to them? Yeah.
yeah, did I offend somebody and they're not telling
Right.
me,
Yeah.
or that's where I go. I've
Yes.
somehow done something wrong
Mm-hmm.
and they're not willing to tell me what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think we go through that with a lot of relationships, when we
Mm-hmm.
see that we're not part of that clique or circle anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
think that's something I did wrong or they don't want to be around me. And it
Mm-hmm.
could be something as simple. And there was something similar that happened some time ago where
Mm-hmm.
a friend, well, actually somebody I went to school with was having her 40th birthday party.
Yeah.
And I saw a whole bunch of people that we went to school with and they were there, right? And I remember her putting on on a social media platform, Merry Christmas. And I said, I see that you had a wonderful birthday party and it looks great. She said, I'm sorry you couldn't make it. And I said, I'm sorry I couldn't make it. I didn't even know about it. And
Right.
so through that conversation, I got to know that she had my wrong email address.
Oh,
And
wow.
I thought that she didn't want to invite me. But it was that, you see how there's two different narratives? So by me not coming, she thought that maybe I just didn't want to come.
Right.
Knowing that she had it was an email address that I had, but I don't know how to use that email address.
Right.
Wow.
So she sent all the invites out and went to that address. She said, well, nothing bounced back. I said, I don't use it, but
Yeah.
new address. So, making sure that you don't also build a narrative in your head of what's
That's
going
true.
on.
Right.
Yeah.
We are victims of that. We start to create our own stories in our head. And that's the reason why I wasn't invited, or I'm not part of that clique because they don't like me or they jealous.
Right.
It's our own stories that's keeping us from having these great relationships or being great in a sense.
It's true. It's true.
And it happens so right away. I go to the negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go right to the negative.
That's unfortunate.
I know.
And we have to be cognizant of that and try to reprogram our brains. And what I liked about the book, the Let Them, because when I first heard the title Let Them, and she kind of explained it, not listening to wholeheartedly, I was easy to be like, oh, forget them. But what's empowering about that and what she says, the second part of that is let me.
Right.
Let me.
Right. It's not just let them and, go F yourself or go live your life. It's like, okay, this is the road you want to take. This is what you want to do. This is what you want to say. All right. I can't control what you're thinking or doing or behaving or responding to, but I control how I feel.
Right.
It stays in my mind, because what they say, what you think, you give power to.
Yeah.
This is so true.
In your head and manifest state.
I know.
Find yourself not sleeping. Meanwhile, the person who said it is sleeping like a baby.
And
anytime.
Now I was going to say, just to add on, let me, like you said, let me, how I'm going to respond to it. So if I do have an issue with whatever it is, am I going to get upset, or I'm going to call you up and say, hey girl, like you said, I didn't get the invite. What happened?
Right.
To get some clarification. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
So yeah, you have to, how you respond. Right. Is everything. That's everything.
That is true. That is true.
This has come up for me at my job lately. Because, as you try to do things that you have a passion for, like we do for the Three Ladies podcast or this, and suddenly you feel maybe there's some challenges in my job or some implications that I feel I'm not adequate. I have to say this book helped me take a step back and say, well, do I really want to give so much effort here?
Right.
Versus the effort towards these other things? How am I really procrastinating for what I'm wanting to do that's beyond what I am as in my job because I'm feeling pulled and trying to prove myself at my job?
Right.
And that really came up big for me. Big. Yeah, because, sometimes in situations, suddenly you don't feel valued.
Right.
And you're giving so much effort.
So you're asking yourself, is it worth it?
And she talks about that too. She says that a lot of times people feel as though they're stuck at their job or it's like this is it. They have to make it work. And she says, no, you have the power to
You're right.
the job.
That's what made me take a step back.
Right. You have the power to go where you feel appreciated. You should never feel as though that you have no answers. You have the answers. And in fact, you have the power. And that's what's so empowering about this book is that everything that you're seeking is right here.
Right.
That's right. It's in our control.
It starts with you.
Yeah. Yes. And to your point, I could have been on the phone with her and been like, have an attitude and said, oh, I'm not going to pick up her call or not respond to her on social media. But I reached out and said, oh, it's such a nice party. And she was kind of shocked that I wasn't there. And I was kind of shocked that I wasn't invited. So like you said, having that mindset open and knowing how I was going to respond, because if I had responded with the attitude, I probably would have not gotten the whole story.
Right. It's true. It's true.
And for me, about my job, when I I was feeling very inadequate or some kind of judgment, when I really thought about through this framework of let them, I'm like, wait a minute, I have a choice of how I want to feel about this.
Mhm.
And
And
you
the
felt,
truth
doesn't it
is,
empower you? Didn't you feel like,
Yes.
it lifted this pressure off of me.
Yes.
I was like, oh my
Yes.
God.
Yes.
And the
It's
minute
true.
I said, oh, well, let them. Okay, y'all want to do that? Go ahead.
Yes.
Right.
Because
I don't need to fight this fight.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of us in certain circles, we feel as though that sometimes we got to bend backwards for certain relationships or
Yep.
friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come to a point where it's like, okay, if you feel as though that I'm this person or I'm not good enough, have those opinions, and I'm
You
gonna
have that right.
yes, exactly. You have that right. But I'm not going to get upset or get anxious and try to control the situation and say, oh, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? It's more like, okay, how am I showing up for myself? How am I making myself happy? If this is draining me, I need to step away and take care of number one.
Yep.
And that's true in the book. I'm like in the last chapters, maybe chapter 19. She talked about, like you said, Eunice, those relationships that people think a certain way about you, and why does that bother you?
Yeah.
Like, they're gonna think the way they want, they're gonna feel the way they want. She talked about a situation with the wife trying to get the husband to lose weight, to exercise, right?
Yeah.
And you have to allow people to come to that on their own.
Yeah.
Adults, especially.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to allow him, when he decides to get off the couch, like she said, you can influence, you can live your life a certain way.
Yes.
But when people are ready to make whatever changes or to think whatever they want, that's when they're going to come to it.
That's true.
And you know what? Well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, who are you, or who are we to try to control what they feeling and thinking, and this is what you should be doing?
No.
It's too much.
And I loved it when she talked about the circumstance with her daughter having this anxiety in the night.
Yeah.
How she really was thinking it would just be something she'd grow out of.
She was enabling her, right? Trying to help her.
Well, you know something, and I think with some friendships or partners or family members, sometimes I find myself in that enabling kind of place. You know,
I even use that. I didn't mean to cut you off. It made me think about my friend that's sick.
Yeah.
Trying to do everything you can't. Like,
no.
You can help. You can help.
Right.
But you
I
can't
didn't mean to cut you off, MC. What was you saying?
No, I totally relate, because sometimes you do feel this powerlessness when someone's in a place where they're trying to sort things out that are really stressful or anxiety or challenging life experience.
Yeah.
And the truth is that it's like they have to come to some place in the road where they have to realize either I need therapy or I need some counseling or I need to talk to my doctor. Maybe I'm in depression. I mean, you really have to allow them to go through it, whatever it is.
Right.
You can be supportive, you can be listening, but to just allow them to continue this behavior that's not serving them or you.
Right.
You know, letting your child come up and sleep on the floor after she's been anxious for hours. That's not gonna serve anybody except continue her this experience. It doesn't allow her to get over it.
And like she said, she's teaching her daughter she's not strong enough to fix it. She has to allow her to say, you can do this.
Yes.
You can fix it. Whatever it is that you're afraid of, or
and it's uncomfortable.
It is. It is.
It's so uncomfortable.
I think of my own son when he's now in the service.
Right.
And when he would, one time he called me, he was crying. He's like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I almost told him, come home. I almost told him to come home because I could feel the pain in his voice. I could feel like he was frustrated. And I knew it was difficult. It was a big change. I mean,
of course.
But I told him, I said, you know what? This is going to be your testimony. You're going through this so that maybe 10 or even 20 years down the road, you're going to be the inspiration to somebody else.
Yes.
Get on stage somewhere and you're going to remember this event day after day and tell the story to somebody else who is going to need that to help them push them through.
Yeah.
And that's
plus the thing is that if you really rescue that person in that situation,
I'm
you're really not giving them the opportunity to have that growth to the next place for them.
Yes.
And that to me is a hard thing, because I had to do an intervention with some in my family. And frankly, that was pretty tough. You know, when you have to come to that family member and say, listen, you need to go to rehab.
Right.
And I'm willing to get you to rehab, and I'm not leaving this room, and I will call every family member to fly up here until you agree.
That's right.
Yeah, she did talk about supporting those who are struggling with conditions, which I liked a lot, because sometimes, I mean, I know people who struggle with some addictions, and it can drain you. It can
pull you down. It is. Yes.
And it could drain a whole family.
Yes. Anybody who's around it. And sometimes you have to learn the tough love and say that, you know what, this is no more good. This is not good for me either.
Right.
I can put you in this way and know your boundaries.
There's that saying, the best way to learn is to do it, but the fastest way to learn is to fail. So, learn. Either way, you're going to learn, right?
Go through it.
Yeah.
You know,
so I have this quote from the book. I'm going to read it out to you guys. I said a couple of them on my phone, but I particularly like two of them. So I'm going to start. You're responsible for your own happiness. You're responsible for the energy you bring and how you show up. You're responsible for waking up every day and doing the work that makes progress on what matters. Responsible for defining what matters to you. You're responsible for telling the truth, even when it's really hard. You're responsible for paying for your life. Nobody owes you anything, but you owe yourself everything.
That's powerful.
Yes.
I
saved that because I love that so much. And then the last one, which was towards the end of it, which I think I almost cried towards the end.
Yeah.
Is whatever your big dream is, however crazy, unlikely, or silly it may seem, I see it for you too. If you don't believe in it, let me believe in it for you. If you don't think you can do it, let me remind you that you can. And
I love that.
Yes.
And you know something, I love the fact that she includes that it's not just let them, but the whole about let me.
The second part.
That's the power part.
That's the power part.
That's the power part.
Yeah.
Controlling you.
Don't you feel like sometimes that gets lost?
Of course. Of course.
I think I lose it daily.
Yes.
But this reminded me.
And I'm not saying, and you was talking about, well, how do I keep all these nuggets in me without forgetting it? And I think books like this, you know, I'm a big Proctor, I forgot his last name, one of the motivational speakers, but he talks about just like athletes train every day, the muscles to get better, your mind is a muscle.
Yeah.
So you don't read a good book and then you put it on the shelf. You have to visit it and read it over and over until it becomes part of ingrained in you.
I agree.
When he talks about he used to read Think and Grow Rich, he said he read that over 56 times.
Sometimes you get a different view of different things when you read it again, right?
Yes, exactly. He says just like a song, you can hear a song all the time on the radio. Go through a heartbreak and no words.
Different.
Yes, sing it.
Very different.
You're like, oh, that's what she said.
Yes, it hits differently. So just like this book, at this time, it was a lot of nuggets. I'm sure in another year or two, if you read it again, it will have a meaning because you have grown, hopefully.
Yeah.
And
so
your
you
mind
see things different, right?
Different.
There's one thing that I wanted to, on page 98, where she talked about frame of reference. Remember, she talked about her mom didn't really like the husband. She didn't want, because she felt like the husband was going to take her away. And she said, frame of reference is a fancy way to say understanding the lens through which somebody sees something. So we always have to keep in mind, sometimes they may come with a view and you're like,
where'd that come from?
But that's where they're coming from.
Exactly.
Keisha, give that example. I remember Keisha, and I was just looking at her, I was like, oh shoot, Keisha's like a seance, a sage. We went to the cafe with a friend of mine, and Keisha, before we spoke, Keisha gave this very good example. And it was something.
Oh,
do you remember? And
Yeah.
that's really good, Keisha.
You know why? Because I always think about, because we all are sitting in the same room together, doesn't mean that we have the same view.
Oh,
So
no.
I might be sitting on this side of the table seeing the front of the door, but you're on the other side of the table seeing 10 other tables, 10 people
behind you.
Yo-Yo might be sitting at a different angle, and she might see the exit sign in the kitchen. Right. So I was just making a point that you could have the same situation, but you see it different. So you have to always frame a reference. That's what it's called, frame a reference.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's what's so important, is that, sometimes we can be too much in the thick of it. And I think that's why it's challenging. If you're at your job and you're working to make money for you, but then also too, how do you not let yourself get sucked into giving all your energy and power and attention to the 9 to 5, right, and saving something for this pursuit of what you aspire to shift into?
Yes.
Into
right.
your passion, into your bigger pursuit. That spoke to me so hugely. It's like, wow, I'm giving too much mental and emotional energy at work. And I'm not preserving it for myself, for my pursuit later.
So now you can say, let them. You could
exactly let them. Okay. And I don't have to tangle or convince anybody. Okay, that's right. All right. You want to do it that way? Sounds like a plan.
That also goes hand in hand in knowing that you are worthy of the life that you aspire to be.
That's right.
Yes.
Whatever big dreams you aspire to have, if you believe that you're going to be the first millionaire, if you believe you're going to be the first, person to own a whole block of buildings as far as property, whatever you aspire to be, never diminish that. Never think that it's unreachable. Never think that it's out there for somebody else to get and I'm not worthy of it. Because that's another thing. Sometimes we believe that we're not worthy of it.
It's hard to get past sometimes, I think. I know for me, because I was reflecting, before we got on this call, how much I struggled when I started Healthy by George in 2020, and I stopped. And I remember listening to her talk about how you get in your head about the judgment that I don't look good. I don't have anything worthwhile to say. I'm going to be judged or criticized, made fun of. People are going to not value what my intention is. And it was a heavy lift. It was only when I started having the accountability group with you guys and really seeing myself differently through you that I was able to really pick up the baton and go.
Keep going, right?
Yeah.
You're right.
And didn't she say that in towards the beginning, she started this coaching and she was afraid. And that reminded me of us.
That spoke to me big time. Yes.
I even just recently with the video, I was like, should we really post that?
And I know.
And she said that she was afraid to post. She was afraid to admit to people that she was a coach. Because people were like, well, how are you a coach?
Right.
What makes you a coach?
Exactly.
And that's because she kept having those voices in her head thinking that, oh, was she good enough? And she was worried about what her friends would say.
Of course.
Right.
It's like us. Remember, we kept thinking about, oh, our friends are not liking it. Our friends think we're boring. Our friends think this.
Right.
Think that. But maybe that they are not the audience for this podcast.
Maybe not. Yeah.
And you see that message I just sent you?
That woman that spoke, yes.
She has been through a lot. You know how they say mother has lived?
Yeah.
She has been through so much. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for her to say, Keisha, and that was just part of the message. She called me.
Wow. That recording was powerful.
She said, you don't know when I watched this podcast, she said, y'all don't know what y'all are doing. And I'm like, really? This is a grown woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
So
that was a moving message.
It was so moving. And I said, thank you so much. I said, you know what? We needed to hear that. Thank you.
Yes, we did. We did.
We definitely needed to hear that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to get out of our own heads, because sometimes at one point you're like, oh, well, this podcast has got numbers, they got audience, they got this. But I think about what she said in her beginnings. She said, you know how many times I posted? You know how many people followed me? People said these overnight successes took years to make.
Exactly.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Everybody does. Everybody.
Yes. I remember posting something on my Instagram feed with this young kid was like, he was holding up his artwork. He was like, I'm not good. I'm not good. He said, bitch, did you start yet? But did you start?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
In order for you to be great, you got to start, right?
You got to put that foot out and go walking.
Put that foot in, get those wounds,
Yep.
those kicks in the side.
Yep.
Oh, I don't think it's funny. I don't think you're interested. Okay.
Yep.
There's going to be a day, it's going to come. And we're like, oh, I remember when they first started. It's going to be those stories.
Let me tell you, you just said your son called from basic training saying he don't know if he could do this. I remember that phone call, crying. I called my mother. First of all, she said, nobody told you to go in there.
Right.
And I was like, please call Al Sharpton, get me out of here. I had the whole, get Obama, do what you got to do.
That's too funny.
20 years later, I regret. Like, I wish I would have stayed in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that day that I made that phone call, I was like, what did I do? Why am I here?
Yeah.
You better get Al Sharpton and right now come and get me.
Fear, right? The fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Well, the discomfort is so big.
It is.
Yeah.
The discomfort is so big because you're stepping into something you don't have any way of measuring, understanding. Your emotions are overwhelming you, and you're just you don't know how to manage it.
And like a teacher of mine always told me this, and it just came to the forefront when I was reading this book. She said, always remember that you're the caterpillar.
Right.
You're going to blossom into a butterfly.
Exactly.
Without struggle or without challenge, you would never grow.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Our life is to grow and evolve. Like what is it? Muhammad Ali said that if you still thinking the same way you thought 20 years ago, then you just 20 years of your life.
That's right. Well, and also too, I love that, my therapist always reminds me, these growing pains, they don't stay the same. They change.
Yes.
Yes. That pain you're going through, it's not going to last.
And emotions, they go in and out. What is it? It's your hormone levels going up. That's your emotions.
Yes.
So you might feel one way today and tomorrow you're like, oh my God.
Why did I feel like that?
It's growing pains.
I know. Right. Well, ladies, what do you think we should do as far as a final summation of the book?
Get the book.
I 110% agree.
Yeah.
Get the book. Get the audio.
This is for everyone.
It's life changing.
It is. Yes.
Because I think a lot of our hiccups is worried about what other people think.
Exactly.
Andre tried to use it on the kids. I said, I was complaining about the kids. He said, let them. I said, buddy, calm down.
Yeah, right. They're still living in your house.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And she does mention the kids do need guidance though.
They do need something else than just go out the door and run them up.
Right. Yeah. You want to eat ice cream for dinner? Go ahead. Let them. No.
I totally agree with you. I think that, so often we give our energy and our minds and our abilities away to these kind of things that we don't have any control over.
Yeah.
And yet we're there stressing and fretting and, causing some kind of altercation or some kind of whatever. And the truth is that we can do something within ourselves and to let me really think about
power. Get your power back. That's right.
I have the ultimate power in the moment. I love that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, ladies, I love being able to reflect on these things with you guys. It makes it more meaningful and it just goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. And if you're watching this video now and you haven't gotten a copy, please do get a copy and let us know. Let us know what you think, how you feel.
Get your copy.
Yes. And how are you using this in your life?
Definitely. We definitely want to know.
Get your power.
Get your power back.
That's right.
All right, ladies.